Hello, welcome to the RC block. I'm Jamie Nitro. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight we're going to be putting this transmission into this RC Morgan. And I'm going to just basically take you guys along and show you what I'm going to do. Now, this transmission is not something you can buy. So really, you have to kind of make what you want if you want something particular, and that's what I did here. Now I couldn't find anything that would suit my purpose for this RC, so I knew I would have to make it. Now I had most of the parts lying around, and I was able to take the parts and do what I wanted. One of the things I wanted to do was add a gear ratio here, so I can change out these two gears to make it different gear ratios depending if I need more torque or high speed from the engine. Now here I have my clutch assembly, and the way this is working is I got 3 plates inside and I have 3 clutch shoes. Now the middle plate here is actually connected right to the gear and will turn. When you go ahead and you turn, it actually turns with the gear. So the gear has 2 contact points. It has a spline in the middle here for this plate, and then it has the face of the gear. So those 2 contact points come together and put pressure together, and that's what makes everything turn nicely. Now for my shifting, it's done through here. I have the same mechanism on the other side, and these gears basically have to line up so that the pins will go inside there. If they don't go inside, or if they don't line up, then it won't go inside, and it just needs to turn until it does line up. So basically you don't want to try and put it in gear under a load. You want to be, you know, at an idle or low RPM when you're shifting into gears. Just to prevent damage, you could probably handle it. It is all metal. There is no plastic at all. A little bit of rubber right here, but that's it. Let's see. So yeah, this is something I just kind of created. I was going through the transmission. I'd done a bearing upgrade for this reverse idler gear. Now this idler gear originally was on a cap screw, and sitting on the cap screw it had a lot of up and down play, so the gear actually broke. That's why I ended up deciding, and I never really had a good reverse too. Anytime I would try and go into reverse, because the gear was being pushed into the other gear, it seemed to create more tension and wouldn't allow it to actually turn nicely. So by doing this, now there's a nice mesh. Everything moves nicely. And honestly, I did it for my 6x6 and it worked beautifully. It's been working beautifully. So I took the same gearbox from my 6x6 because I love the reliability of it. And that's why I added on this extra pieces up front here just to make it all in one. So now all I have to do is run a propeller shaft right off the engine to my gearbox, and that's it. I don't have to try and figure out a flywheel or clutch assembly that goes onto the motor that's centrifugal. This, I can have the motor idling at a very low RPM and engage the gears and get this to idle along really slow. So that's something I really want, and that's why I built the transmission the way I did. Now in order to mount the transmission, the way I came up with was to use 2 plates, and these plates would go in place basically right there and here on the car, and that's going to hold the transmission in the center of the car, and it's going to keep it as low to the bottom of the car as possible. So I'm just going to go and install these guys on here, which really doesn't take long. Now, one of the things I noticed after I've built everything is that I have a little bit of play in this upper plate here. So I'm going to add another support into this while I'm here. So to do that, I can just loosen off these. This plate will now come out. Keep my assembly together. So what I'm going to do now is take this screw out, and I'm going to replace it with a support rod. That way when I put pressure going outwards, it's not going to allow the plate to move out, and it's going to keep it nice and straight. So one support isn't enough, and it could be for the amount of pressure, but for whatever reason, one support hasn't been enough for me. So I do not have a 3mm set screw. So what I'm going to do in place of a 3mm set screw is take the cap screw that I've already Loctited into place for my support that I'm going to use, and I'm going to take and cut the end of this screw off, and then I'll have a 3mm set screw. Kind of would suck to have to go to a hobby store and buy one. No thank you. Well, I guess it's easier to do this way. Don't want to get any shavings. My transmission here. Sorry about the noise. I don't know how that translated into camera. I guess I'll find out on the playback. So for this guy here, notice how it looks all ugly on the end of that thread there. So I'm just going to go and take this nut. There's a reason why I put this nut on here in the first place, and that's because if you take the nut and turn it off, all those ugly threads will now be removed, and then this will screw nicely into this side. And there you have it. Now I have my extra support. And that will be sitting pretty. The clutch assembly, as you can see, it's nice and simple, just a bunch of plates. You can see the spline here. That spline is so that that middle plate here grips. Now I just put this all back together here. It goes back together pretty easily. Oh, I have a couple shims in there. I should make sure those are in place. Yes, both in place. So I had to come up with a bunch of shims to make everything move freely and nicely. So it was quite an undertaking to do. I've never done anything like this before, so there's no instruction manual. Kind of just go and figure it out as you go. So I was very fortunate that everything came together nicely for me. So now I can put on my first mounting plate. Now my whole idea for this is that if I go and put my mounting plates on the transmission and then wrap the transmission up nicely so that no welding swag will get on there, I will be able to put these mounts on, put the transmission in the car, and actually weld everything in place while I have it together. And then in doing that, hopefully, if I did everything right, I'll be able to take out the 4 bolts captures that I have holding the transmission in place, and the transmission will hopefully just slide right out and not be all tight or anything, but we'll see how that goes. Hopefully you guys will stick around for the big reveal to see if the transmission comes out nicely or not. So I'm really, for installing this, it's pretty simplistic. I like to keep things as simple as possible. I mean, you can do over complex stuff, but sometimes simple things just look neat, organized. Shiny face. And these 2 mounting plates here, so when I made them, I fabricated them, cut them off a piece of flat bar, and took both of them, used a vernier and squared them up to each other, and then I drilled the 2 holes for both of these. Of course I marked everything out, scribed all my lines. I use one of these little prick punches. They're the best. It's spring loaded, so you know it it's spring loaded, so it works really nicely. I love it. One of my best tools. Alright, new support is in place. Everything is tightened down. This is all moving nicely still. Now, putting that in place, one thing I noticed, I have a little bit of tightness here, so I'm going to have to take and probably file a little bit off of one of these 2 shafts. Now, I had to turn these shafts myself on a lathe so that they weren't such a hard steel to do this gear alone, because it's a special hardened gear. To go and drill and tap it is a very hard thing to do, especially if you don't have the very expensive bits to do it. Now, unfortunately, I had a drill bit, so I was able to make my hole, and then by doing a mild steel shaft, I was then able to tap the shaft, put a hole through it and tap the shaft, so that this gear would be firmly placed onto this shaft without any possibility of anything coming loose. So so far it's been looking pretty good and straight. Now my final piece that I plan on making for this transmission is going to be a little input support cone here, and that's just going to house another bearing so that there will be 2 bearings to support this one shaft here, and that'll just keep everything a lot more aligned. I don't know if I'm going to take anything out now. I think I'll just save that boring part for when I'm alone and you guys aren't around. But now, if I've done my job right and I've measured everything properly, I have actually taken a vernier and gone and measured each one of these, that they're the same on both sides. The transmission itself, I've gone and squared up with squares. So I mean, if I'd done everything right, this transmission is going to just mount in. And you guys are here to see it, so let's see what happens. And when I was putting my thought into this transmission, I really didn't want to put my weight too far forward, because the more forward I put the weight, the less traction I'm going to have on the rear tire, which is the drive tire. So my whole thought is, if I have the transmission pushed back as far as I possibly can. Oh, look at that. Oh, perfect. That is gonna be nice. So, see how smooth that is? Yeah, other than a little bit of tightness there. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and take this to my magic machine that makes metal become one, and come right back and show you guys the end result. Alright, hold on for a sec. I'll be right back. Okay, that was quick. Well, I'm back, and as you can see, it's all been wrapped up for welding there. And there you go. It went together nicely. It's now part of the chassis. Of course, because of the way I made it, I'll just be able to take these 4 bolts out. Hopefully, transmission is going to come out. So let me speed this up, and let's see how it goes. Just a reminder to please smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to get the latest updates on my next videos. Now, what I was trying to show you by wrapping everything up and having it all together for welding is because that's going to allow everything to be nicely aligned, go in perfectly straight. And if you do all your prep work in the beginning, your end result will be exactly what you're hoping for, and this one comes out and in very nice and easily. I don't have to really force it or anything. Awesome. That's exactly what I wanted. So let me just quickly get this back together here, and then we'll tell you what I'm going to do. Alright, well, there you go. She's all in. It's now one with the chassis. This is, it goes in and comes out very easily. When I have the body done, it'll just be a matter of taking it off. If I ever have to maintain it, no big deal to get at. And that's what I wanted to try and produce when I was building this transmission. Something that I could do that with. Now, if you wanted to build this transmission, you could. What is involved is basically this whole section from here, all this section here. You can buy that section at sterlingkit.com, and you'd basically need 2 of those gearboxes so you can get all these extra plates and posts. As you can see, this one here I made when I was fixing the shaft issue that came up after putting this support in. I decided I want to put the other support in all while I was fixing that. And now, as you can see, everything moves very nice now. That front shaft doesn't move when I'm turning it, so that's good. And when I engage it, everything's smooth all the way through the whole transmission. I'm very happy with that. So that's exactly what you want to look for, get all those little bugs out. Sometimes it takes a few days. This transmission, I started building it a week ago, and this is the result here. And that's it. Also, yeah, I should also mention too, this little slider yoke here for the clutch. Now, originally, this piece and this gear assembly comes out of the Cison transmission. My reverse gear, I'm doing a update or a revision to the reverse gear on this guy. So in the meantime, while I can't use it, I decided, what the heck, I might as well make something happen. I can just machine a new one of those later. So no big deal. So yeah, I had all the pieces basically sitting around the house, bought a couple gears, and there you go. I was surprised though, like what the end result cost would be, just going out and buying everything. It actually is not a cheap transmission. So, but whatever, it's here. This prototype exists. It works. I'm one step closer now to getting this motor connected and driving it. So on my next video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mount the whole tank setup. I'm gonna get that all mounted in there. You can see why I have the transmission where I have it, so that I'm able to get this gas tank in here, and it's gonna sit really close to the engine. So the engine will have no problem drawing the fuel up into the motor. I think it's going to work very nicely, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. And you guys can come along and build with me if you'd like. So thank you for hanging out and building tonight. I hope you guys have all the best luck on your next builds. Goodbye for now.